Hey everybody, I was down here the other night and was playing around with the Craftsman sander project here, and I had gotten in a Chicago die-cast brand new 2-inch pulley and put it on the motor and put the belt on, tightened up the tension on the belt, and ran the sander, and it was really pretty horrible. Sorry I didn't shoot any video of it, but it was really, it was making some bad noises and vibrating horribly, and I could see that the brunt of the problem was, as I suspected might be the problem, that this was just running way out of true because of my, poor attempt of shimming this thing. So, for those of you who haven't been watching the series, the problem is that something has gone pear-shaped as far as the size of that shaft that's on there. It should be 5/8, and it's not, and it's not half-inch, so it's some non-standard deal on there, and I have no idea how that happened. So somebody suggested, well, why don't you just, I need a 2.5-inch pulley, why don't you just buy a 2.5-inch pulley with a 1/2-inch bore, and then bore it out large enough so it fits well on the shaft that I have, and that if I have to, I could always deepen the groove here for the keyway. Well, that's a good idea, but it occurred to me that, well, I've already got this 2.5-inch pulley, and I just spent $8 on the other pulley, so why not use what I've got? I'm still going to end up having to do some machining to it. So I figure what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a sleeve to put into this pulley, and it's going to have to be pretty darn thin, because I had already figured, I think, that the wall thickness of whatever I put in there is going to be around like 25 thousandths. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do for starters is I'm going to enlarge this hole slightly so that I can have a little bit more wall thickness to whatever I end up putting in there. So that's what tonight's project's going to be.
Of all time at 95.1 WXRV FM. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Dad, son, come home with me. Visit the Secret Panda Village.
All right, I got the pulley on there. It was turning pretty true. It was still out a little bit, so I did add one little piece of shim, and now it's turning, I think, as true as I'm going to get it. There's a noise in there. I can't figure out where it's coming from. Now I need to see if I could figure out how to adjust the belt tension tracking. So, let's see, I'll just give it a quick shot there. I just figured out where some of that noise is coming from. I forget to tighten this. Alright, all that noise is the belt rubbing up against this part over here, which that I can fix by moving this whole thing over on the top there. So the belt, as it wobbles, it's hitting this plate. If I move this pulley out just a little bit further, I think that'll correct that. I think there's plenty of room to put this on. Yeah, so I'm gonna loosen this pulley and edge it out just a little bit. Son of a gun. Oh, I see, my sleeve that I made didn't move out with the pulley. Hey everybody, it's a very hot and muggy Tuesday afternoon, July 18th, 2017, and you're probably right now, if you've gotten this far in the video, about, I don't know, 8 minutes into this part of the Craftsman sander repair. That video that you just watched was shot probably about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago at least now. A couple of things have happened since then. Let me start by saying what happened right after that last clip you just saw. I was able to relocate the pulley, and then it wasn't running true, so I actually put a little piece of shim stock in there and got it to where it's running fairly true. Moved the pulley out far enough so the belt's not vibrating and hitting the metal guard, and so that seems to be running smooth. And then I decided to put together the disc sander components of it, and when I put the disc sander components together, I discovered I couldn't get the disc, or the platen for the disc sander, to not rub the plastic housing that's supposed to catch the sawdust. So there's an alignment issue there, and for the life of me, I'm not sure how I'm going to correct it. So I'm about ready to bail out of this whole project, because in reality, this seems like it was pretty much a waste of time. The reason why I say that is because I've got an older sander that's complete over there that doesn't seem to have any of the problems I'm having with this one, but it doesn't have a stand. So I've got a nice stand over here, a metal stand with a motor on it. I should take that whole sanding unit that I got on the shelf over there, slap it up on here, and, you know, be pretty much done with a complete sander. And as if that wasn't enough to tell me that this was a waste of time, the other issue is there are a couple of parts on this sander that I could list on eBay, and I could probably sell a couple of the components off of this sander for what I may end up getting off of Craigslist for the complete sander in running condition. So, I mean, just goes to show you, sometimes, you know, you want to follow through with a project and then you don't see the forest through the trees, so to speak. All right, well, let's start with, I've got the belt off here because I had this all put together and with the disc on there, and it was not going to work. So then I decided to take it all apart. And so let me put this belt back on. All right, let's see if this is still running quiet and true. So that's actually pretty good. The only noise you really hear is the sound of the belt as it rubs on the platen, which is normal. You don't hear any more of this slamming around over here. Well, actually, see, I've got the metal piece off, so that's why that is. But so let me see if I can explain what's going on, what my problem is now. Okay, so here's the problem. In essence, this disc wants to rub on the inside of this guard right here. The tolerance is crazy tight for some reason. This has very little play. Probably has to do with making sure that the sawdust goes right down into here. Oh, yeah, let there be light. So what's happening is when this is installed on the shaft here, it's actually running too low and impinging on the plastic. So this position can't be changed. Now my first thought was, oh well, it's because I made my own bracket, so obviously all I need to do is make sure that I lift the bracket up so then this whole thing will move up. So I do think it's just a slight amount of misalignment of this bracket that is maybe causing my problem. And what bugs me even more about this whole thing is, now I think just recently I checked on eBay and there are a couple of these brackets, original brackets on there, and they're, you know, now they're listed for like probably like $15 or something crazy like that. So that's why, that's just another example of why this was a bust. That and the fact that I did a search of auctions. This table assembly right here, this will bring $40 or $50 on eBay. Might not sell for a while, might take a little while before it sells, but the point is, here's $40 or $50 sitting here. And then I think one of these roller assemblies, I saw one of those go for like $40. There's $90 right there. And then I can keep the stand and the motor for my other sander, one of my other sanders that's in better shape, right? And then to add insult to injury, I'm going along on, I'm checking out on Craigslist because I'm starting to think about, well, how much am I going to ask for this thing? So I'm looking through Craigslist, and lo and behold, I come across an ad for a vintage Craftsman sander, and I see it listed for $60. And I'm thinking, I'm hoping it's a smaller model. Then I open up the picture and take a look at it, and son of a gun if it doesn't look just like this one. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? This guy's got this thing listed for $60, which makes me think, gee, how much is he willing to take for the thing? And that happened while I was on my camping vacation up in Maine, and I'm coming across that listing. I'm like, oh, that's not good. I'm thinking, I can't believe this. How the heck am I going to compete with selling this thing and expecting to get any decent money for it if he's got one for $60? Now his didn't have a belt on it, and he didn't say anything about what condition it was in. All right, but here's the thing: when I get back from my vacation, I pulled the ad up again, and the price has dropped to $40. $40. So what am I to do? So I do the only sensible thing I can think of doing. I make an appointment, I go out and see it, and I buy it. And I'm pretty confident that this is in fact the same model that I have downstairs. This is a 113.22521. It's got the same exact platen assembly. It's got the same adjustment setup as on mine downstairs. It's got the plastic guard like mine here. Notice this is not rubbing.
it's got the same exact stand. In fact, it's actually got one better on my stand because it's got the adjustable feeder still on it. Motor looks a little undersized. It's got the 2-inch diameter pulley on the motor, which tells me that that's more than likely the original pulley. It's got what I believe to be the original pulley behind here. It's got a cast iron table as opposed to the plastic table on my other one with a cast iron arm, which makes it a little bit better, so probably a little bit earlier than mine. It's already wired with a switch for the motor, okay? The only things I can find wrong with it are two things. It's missing one of the adjustment doohickeys there on the plat. It's missing this adjustment cam thing, okay, on this one. It's missing the sheet metal piece that covers this area right here, okay, which I have on the other one. And it's missing the plastic shroud that covers this lower section. It's also missing the stop for in horizontal position. But I think you guys would be the first to agree that even in the condition it's in, with a couple of little missing pieces and everything, this was a steal at 40 bucks, but it gets better than that. So it turns out when I roll up to the house, there's a for sale sign out in front of the house. They're selling the house. So he's basically unloading this stuff, and I think time might have been an issue. I think that's why he dropped the price from 60 to 40, even though he only had it up for a few days at 60. Then he dropped it to 40. You know, I think I was just lucky that nobody jumped on it right away. So I get out there to take a look at the thing. And when I get there, he plugs it in, he flips the switch, the motor hums and it won't start. But we give it, I play with it and I give it a couple of good spins and I get it to start. So I think it might have a bad start capacitor or something. So he says, geez, he says, you know, the last time I tried it was quite a while ago and it was working fine. He says, yeah, he says, you know, I didn't realize that it wasn't running. And he literally says this to me, honest to goodness. He says to me, he says, you know what? If you're still interested in it, you can just take it. Take it for free. And I said, you know, let me pay you something for it. He says, yeah, all right. He's 20 bucks? I said, yeah, I'm plenty happy at $20. So I paid 20 bucks for this thing. I could part this out and double or triple my money easy on this. But I'm not going to do that. What I'm thinking I want to do is maybe take the couple missing parts off, take the parts that are missing off of here, maybe scavenge them off of my mess in the basement there, bail out of that one and just fix this one up. Oh yeah, so that one's also missing this plastic shroud here, which is no big deal. But let's just say for the sake of argument that my heart was set on actually repairing this one and using my homemade bracket. Well, here's what I would do. The location of this in reference to the base, okay, if we use the base as kind of like a reference, the location of this plate really can't be changed. I mean, my first thought was, well, if I just enlarge these holes or made these holes slotted, then I could literally move this down in relationship to the shaft and correct my problem. The issue with that is the way these holes are made through here. There's these bumps. This is basically, it's concave on this side. And that's so that this is offset enough so you can get a wrench behind here and loosen these bolts that allow this thing to swivel. So that's not going to work. So I can't change the location of this in reference to the base. So what I'd want to do is I'd want to change the location of the shaft in reference to this, or the base. And since this is rubbing in the bottom, since the plate's rubbing in the bottom, what I want to do is essentially lift this shaft upward a little bit. So in order to do that, right now I've designed my plate so that it's resting on this shelf. All right, if I take any metal off the bottom of this plate, it's going to actually bring the shaft down even more, cause it to dig in even further. So I don't want that. What I want is I want to lift this up. So to lift this up, what I would need to do is elongate these holes, make these holes slotted, these two mounting holes right here, make them slotted so that I can lift this plate or this bracket up off of this shelf here. And then I would just have to shim it. I'd have to put something in there. Whatever distance I want to move this up is how much thickness I would need underneath this plate, so that this, over time, gravity, if these brackets, you know, if it wants to come down, it can't just settle into position again and start rubbing again. So that's what I'd have to do. I have to bring this up. You know, it's kind of interesting to me that there's damage inside here, that indicating that this was rubbing. But I'm thinking now that I look at these slots that are cut in here, well, you're not going to see them, but I think that's actually probably somebody had stuck. You know, the sandpaper is just made to stick. It's peel and stick on this, and when somebody stuck one on, it was probably hanging over the edge a little bit, and as it would go around, it would just cut that. So that's how to fix this. But doing so involves removing this bracket, which involves removing my pulley, taking this all apart and everything. And like I said, you know, based on the acquisition of this new sander that's sitting out there, because I don't even have room for it here in the shop, the fact that I've got another one sitting over there that probably doesn't need much. The only thing that I hate about this whole thing is the fact that I've got brand new bearings in this thing. Now the upper one, that's easy. I could pop that out. I could put that right in the other one. I bet you it's going to be a perfect fit. This bottom one, however, this bottom one's got the new bearings in it, but they're on this shaft. And as we already discovered from my previous videos, this shaft, there's something completely wrong with this shaft as far as its dimensions go. It's supposed to be a, what did I say, 5/8 inch pulley. It's supposed to fit right on there, and this thing's a train wreck. It's got a larger diameter out here than it does back there. I had to make the sleeve, and oh, and that's the other little rosy thing we got going on here. This pulley is junk now. Pretty much trashed a $8 or $9 pulley because I overbored it to fit this mongrel shaft.